welcome to Freshly Served, the healthy vegan cooking show. I'm Heather, and tonight we are making a moussaka, which is traditionally a Greek dish, and they most often would do it with eggplant and ground lamb. So to make this vegan, we're going to use lentils, and lentils are a great source of folic acid, which is essential for brain function, among other things. So we're going to start by putting half a cup of dried lentils into a pot, and I'm going to add some water, bring these to a boil, and they're going to cook in about half an hour. You can see they start out not very big. You might feel like that's not very much lentils, but they will cook up and expand. Amount of water, not too critical here. But the one thing you don't want to do is add salt. Salt will interfere with the cooking process, and they will not soften up properly. And you want to make sure you get those lentils on first because they do take about half an hour. So while they're cooking, we can get started with our vegetables. And the star of the dish is going to be the eggplant. When you're shopping for eggplant, you want to find one that's purple, and you don't want to have any soft brown spots in them because that's going to be brown inside. So this one is nice and firm. It's perfect. I've also got some celery here. Always nice to get some celery in. And I'm going to use canned tomatoes today because it's winter. The fresh tomatoes are not local, so I'm going to use canned tomatoes. So I'm slicing up the eggplant while my pan heats up, and I just wanted to show you there's a little soft spot here, and that's what it looks like inside. It's very brown. So all I'm going to do is just cut that section out of all the slices, and I'll be good to go. Once your pan's hot, just add a bit of olive oil. And we're cooking the eggplant first in order to soften it up before we get it baking. Now, if you want to save time, you can cook the lentils in advance in the morning or at lunch or whatever. And you can also cook these eggplants separate from the tomato and celery and such. But since I'm waiting for my lentils to cook, I'm just going to do this because it saves a pot, and then I have to do less dishes at the end. So you want your eggplant to get a little bit of oil on them. Not much, they don't need a lot, but when you're frying things, you need to make sure they get just a touch of oil so that it protects the flavor of the vegetable. Kind of like sunscreen. And the best way would be to have them all individually in the pan, but that'll just take too long. So I'm going to layer these guys. Put a little bit more oil on them. Now you want to flip these occasionally to make sure that they all get their chance at the bottom. And you want them to soften up, but keep in mind that they are going in the oven after this. So, like that is probably good. You can see it's really soft. It's starting to get translucent in the center rather than when you look at it raw. It's quite white. Sorry. There we go. Once all your eggplant slices are cooked, you get them out of the pan, and then you're going to start in on the onion and then the garlic. Once they're cooked, you throw the celery in for a few minutes. Your lentils should be done by now. Once your celery is slightly softened, a little splash of wine never hurts. Bring up any flavor that the eggplant left in the pan. And you'll throw your lentils in there. Any extra water, you can throw it in here too if you like. There wasn't really any left in mine. Then you'll get your tomatoes. Go. Some salt and pepper. And you'll just let this cook on low while we make the sauce to go on top. So the sauce is going to be a creamy flour sauce, and I'm starting by heating a pot on the burner here. I'm reusing the pot that I used for the lentils. I just gave it a rinse out. And once it's hot, you're going to add some oil. I've given you measurements, but I'm not exactly measuring here. You just want to make an even layer on the bottom of the pot and not too thick. Then what you're going to do is add some flour, and you want to have a spoon here and just toss this flour into the pot. So see how this is still liquid? That's not enough flour. It just needs a little bit more. So there, when you start to see it form into balls, that's what you're looking for. You're going to let it brown just a little bit for the flour to get a nice cook before we make it into the sauce. And once you see it start to brown a little bit, you're going to add some water. And yes, it'll smoke a little bit when you add water. Get it stirred around really well so that the flour dissolves completely. And then you're just going to let this cook for about 10 minutes. You'll know it's done when you take a bite and it feels smooth on the tongue rather than gritty and floury. Don't cover it. Cover it, because this is not a reduction sauce. You don't want to lose any of the moisture, otherwise the ratio will be off. Once you've given that a chance to cook, it should be nice and creamy texture, kind of like porridge. All you need to do now is season it because it's going to be really bland. It's just flour and oil and water, right? So salt, pepper, I'm going to add nutritional yeast and some nutmeg. With all the components ready now, we can assemble. Get your oven going to about 300, and you're going to want an oven-proof dish. I'm using a round one because I've got round eggplant. Very similar to lasagna, just with eggplant. So you'll take a layer of eggplant, then a layer of your lentil and tomato mix, then another eggplant, then another tomato, so on and so forth. End with an eggplant, and then you'll top it off with the sauce. Pop it in the oven for about half an hour, and you'll have a beautiful dinner. Oh, I forgot one thing, to put the parsley in this tomato mixture. No worries, just stir it in. We put this in at the end because the parsley is fresh, and otherwise it'll get too cooked out. So I've got one more layer of eggplant here. Finishing touches are flour sauce on top. Traditionally, this would have cheese on it as well. And then we'll just pop her in the oven. So you want to carefully take this out of the oven. It's done when you can see this nice browning on top. Hey, not bad. So there you go, healthy vegan moussaka. You can find the recipe for this at healthyveganrecipes.net. Hope you enjoy it. I'm Heather, and this is Freshly Served.